Short form content is actively killing your podcast growth, not helping it, killing it. And I know that sounds harsh or maybe even a little extreme, but stick with me because the data backs this up completely, and I'm gonna prove it. Everyone's chasing shorts right now. Instagram Reels, TikTok clips, YouTube Shorts. Oh my gosh, YouTube Shorts are the worst thing that was ever created. But creators are obsessed with them. But while podcasters are grinding on short form content, their actual podcasts are tanking. And I've watched this happen multiple times to multiple podcasts. And unfortunately, it's kind of a hard conversation I have to have with clients. One client got a short to go viral. And even the term viral sounds kind of icky, like to me these days. And someone's perspective on what viral means is going to be way different than someone else's. In my opinion, if anything that I put out on YouTube gets over 1,000 views, dude, we are celebrating like my stuff went viral. For someone else, it might look like a couple million views. All right. So again, we have to really think about that for ourselves. But what I'm talking about in this scenario is a viral YouTube short that got over 2 million views. And that sounds incredible, right? Unfortunately, their long form podcast episodes got fewer views right after this went viral. And not slightly fewer, unfortunately, but noticeably fewer. Why did this happen? Let's dig into it. So because that viral short brought in an entirely different audience, the new viewers wanted short form content. They didn't want to sit down and listen to a full length episode. So the YouTube algorithm looked at the data and thought, well, nobody's engaging with the long form content on this channel, so we're not gonna give it to everybody or anybody, right? When YouTube sees that your own subscribers are not interested in your podcast episodes, it stops serving it to anyone. So in a weird way, they got poisoned by their own success. So you could be doing the exact same thing right now without even realizing it. You're chasing, again, that vanity metric. We talked about this in the past. So you're chasing vanity metrics on shorts while your actual business mover, the podcast, right, is slowly getting buried by the algorithm. Thankfully, there is a completely different strategy that actually works, and it's what I call the segment strategy. And it's what I use to build Mark Bow's Power Project to over 380,000 subscribers. Not through shorts, through segments. And I'm going to show you exactly why this works and how to implement it starting as soon as this video is over. So real quick though, why short form and long form audiences are basically completely different species. The first thing you need to understand is this. Short form and long form audiences aren't the same person in different moods. They're actually different people. Like literally. Like think about consumption context. When you're watching short form content, where are you? You're in the bathroom taking a dump. Okay, maybe just me. That's when I consume a lot of short form content. Don't lie, you know you do it too. That's when you're scrolling on the toilet. That's probably when I do it the most, actually. When it's not that though, maybe you're waiting in line at a coffee shop. You're sitting on the couch doom scrolling for 20 minutes before bed. Don't do that. You're in the health and fitness realm. You already know not to do that. So maybe that's not you, but generally that's when some people are consuming the short form content. They just want a quick dopamine hit, right? 30 to 60 seconds and that's it. You're not ready to commit to anything. You're just looking for distraction. Long form is completely different. You're commuting to work. You're going for a walk. You're on the treadmill at the gym. You got your headphones on or your AirPods. I'm kind of against those nowadays too. I'm way just like so far gone, like with the EMFs and all that stuff. But if you do have them, right, you probably have them on and you're getting a workout in, but you're ready to invest some attention into a podcast. You're not looking for the quick hits. You're ready to learn something deep. The mindset is completely different. Short form consumer is basically saying, hey, Give me entertainment now, you clown. Right? That's all they want. They want you to do tricks. They want you to be funny. They want you to be entertaining. Long form consumers saying, I'm ready to learn something. Can we be friends? Can I trust you? Right? Again, they're not the same audiences. Now, this might explode in my face like someone shook my white Monster right before I opened it. Love those things. Today, I am drinking, again, another strawberries and cream zero. This is a fan favorite now that I'm putting out these episodes. So anyway, sorry. This might explode in my face, okay? But let me ask you this question. When was the last time you saw an Instagram reel from a podcaster and actually stopped to watch their full-length episode? Be honest. I can tell you for sure for myself, I don't want to speak in absolutes because maybe it happened, but I'm pretty sure I've never done that once. I've asked other people, and everybody that comes to me with this, right? Whether they're clients or just, the average person that's like interested in sharing knowledge about whatever it is, social media, like, hey, don't you have to put short clips out? And then I ask them too. And I'm like, hey, when was the last time you actually followed through and did that? So far, I have not gotten one person to say yes. Right. So just be honest, right? We'll go with at least it's rare, but probably never. You either scroll right past it or you might like it, but you don't go hunt down their podcast. The platforms themselves, thinking about Instagram, TikTok, and all those things, like longer videos don't perform well because that's not what the audience wants, right? The platforms give the audience what they want, and people go to those things for short form content. That's like the equivalent of me trying to sell someone a steak when I hang out inside of a vegan restaurant. Different audiences. Here's a huge one that podcasters actually miss, though. When you get that viral short, you're not converting doom scrollers into podcast listeners. You're attracting people who only want shorts. They flood your channel. They watch nothing but shorts. And the algorithm sees low engagement on the long form and stops serving actual podcasts to them. You didn't grow your podcast. You just allowed the wrong audience to infiltrate your channel. That hurts. All right. And not to get political, but there's some shit like that happening in the country. I'm going to get some shit for saying that. My bad. But we can at least have fun with it. All right. So if shorts aren't the answer, what actually does grow a podcast? And that's where we're going next. The problem, again, is when you put IG Reels and TikToks and YouTube Shorts, you're asking the audience to jump through way too many hoops in order to get back to your podcast, right? Again, just think about the whole experience of being on social media. A viewer sees your clip on one of the short form social media platforms. They think it's interesting, but now what? They have to click on the link in your bio, or they have to comment and wait for a DM. They have to switch apps, maybe even multiple times. They have to find your podcast on YouTube or Spotify, right? Like if they don't, right then and there don't do it, they have to search for it later or whatever. We're talking like 3 different friction points before they even hit play. And most people won't complete that journey. They'll drop off somewhere in the middle because that's just simply too much. You're asking for somebody for way too much just to consume your podcast. You want that barrier to be super low. The platforms even punish you for trying to do this too. Instagram doesn't want you sending people to YouTube. TikTok doesn't want you sending people to Spotify. So you're fighting against the algorithm and human behavior at the same time. Every step you ask someone to take, another step, there's another chance for them to drop off. Asking them to switch apps, like, best of luck, man. So what I want to do is give you a real world example and that illustrates this perfectly. Every single year that I was at the Arnold Classic, I watched how different supplement companies were doing samples. Most companies were giving out, these tiny little morsel samples, right? Thinking about like a protein bar, right? Like they would have like their protein bar. that's like one serving chopped into like 15 different servings. And they have, like the fitness chick on a tray, like trying to pass them out and stuff or whatever. Whatever the case, it was barely enough to even like taste and get an actual sample. So people would grab it, they would eat it in 2 seconds, and then they'd forget about it 1 second later. If you got these samples, you would have no clue who they even were. Now, someone else on the other hand, Quest Nutrition, they did it way different. They gave out full-size protein bars, wrapped and ready to go, like the actual product. People knew exactly what they were getting. They got a full experience on what the bar was like all about. Excuse me. They could see the brand, they could see the logo, like the colors and, the fonts and all that stuff. And in most cases, it gave people something to remember. And the next time they saw that in the store, they're like, oh, I remember I had that, and let me go consume some more. Oh man, the soda's getting me today. So think of your short clip as that tiny little morsel. People consume it because it's there, but they're not taking any action. You need to give people a full serving when you're asking someone to jump through 5 different steps to access your content. You're just giving them that tiny little morsel and then saying, here's this little sample. Good luck finding it in the store, but if you do, thanks. You're making it harder to experience the real value. Most people are not going to make that journey. On top of that, the thing that the growth gurus never want to talk about is all the time you're wasting on clipping shorts, right? You're either paying like an AI clipper that does a really bad job, or you're paying a person to clip it up for you. You're managing multiple platforms, again, Instagram, TikTok, Shorts, who knows what else, Facebook, LinkedIn, all that stuff. You're splitting your energy across all of this, and the opportunity cost is massive. The time and money could go into something that actually converts. One strategy that builds your podcast instead of like spreading out and fragmenting all your attention across all the platforms, that will drive real results. And so I'm going to get into that very, very soon here. Spoiler alert, that's on the way right now. So what does actually work? And I mentioned this in the beginning. The strategy is called the segment strategy. And this is the real growth engine. A segment is not a short. This is super important because it drives me insane when I talk about this with clients. They get fired up thinking I'm talking about social media, and I'm like, pause. No, we don't do that here, right? So let me explain what the difference is. A short is like a 60-second Instagram reel, TikTok. A segment is a 5 to 20-minute video taken from your podcast. So a segment is a standalone video pulled from, again, any episode, but this time we can get a super hyper-specific title for that segment. It has its own thumbnail. It has its own description. It targets, your audience more specifically, and it doesn't target the doom scrollers because, again, they might see 5 minutes and they're like, oh, shoot me now. I could watch 5 videos instead of 1. And so, again, it doesn't target them. It targets the people who are actually looking for long-form value, but it offers that value at a very low risk to them and a very high reward to you and them. I'll explain that a little bit more in a second here. So here's how you identify the segments within your content. This is very straightforward, but we'll get into it anyways. So you record your full-length podcast. Whatever the length is, doesn't matter. So long as it's, again, over the 15 minutes at least. But even if it's a 10-minute one, then you could still potentially do it there. But let's just say it's an hour, 90 minutes. Again, a little bit longer than, a 10-minute video. You're going to listen for the natural breaks. So say you record a podcast episode on training in your 40s. That's your full episode. Work on that title. Don't go with just that title. But that's basically like the general idea of the video. Excuse me again. But within that episode, you got 3 very distinct segments, right? The best training split for men over 40s, recovery protocols that actually work in your 40s, nutrition strategy for building muscle after 40. Each one of those is now going to become a standalone video on your channel. It's the same content, but repackaged differently in its own separate way with its own title, its own description, its own thumbnail. Again, all like it's a brand new video, but you only recorded it once, basically. So you're still giving people the long form content, again, 5 to 20 minutes. That's more than enough to prove you know what you're talking about. And the reason why I said it's low risk for the viewer is it's short enough that it doesn't feel like a massive time commitment. We've all received those links to like a Lex Friedman episode, a Joe Rogan episode, and you can see the time thing on it. And it's like, oh, dude, this is 3.5 hours. All right, I guess so. But if somebody sends you something and they're like, dude, you got to check this thing about, training in your 40s, whatever it is, and you see it's only 10 minutes, you're like, all right, let's see what you got. And then you end up liking it, and then you want to check out the full-length episode, which I'm going to get into in a second here. But again, someone sees the title, best training split for men over 40, and they're ready to invest that time. It's not that tiny little morsel that they're not going to remember. It's a full serving with your logo, your packaging, your experience, your strategies, your coaching, all of that. They actually get a legit sample of that. And again, it's going to entice them to want to dive in and get more. Segments have hyper-specific titles, which also means better searchability. YouTube's algorithm understands exactly what your video is about. So if somebody does search training split for men over 40, they're going to find your segment. They watch it, they like it, they click through, and then they get more interested to watch the full-length episode because they want more. You're already giving them value and you're building trust, and they're ready to consume more. You already know this. I suck at math. But let's do some more math on this. One podcast episode is one piece of content. Cool. I'm still getting good grades so far. But the 3 segments that come from that equal a total of 4 pieces of content. The segments plus the original episode. So each segment has its own title, thumbnail, and description. Each segment drives traffic back to the main episode. And the segments often outperform the main episode because, again, they are low risk for the viewer, but they still deliver a ton of value. So I don't know what the force multiplier is on that, but I think it's like 3,000. Obviously not accurate at all. What I'm saying is this is how you're going to advertise to get people back to your original episode. So after this video that you're watching, I don't want you to leave yet. This is how I'm going to prove to you that I'm not BSing you. After this video, again, when this thing goes to the very end, go check out Mark Bell's Power Project and filter by most popular videos. Here's what you're going to see. The top performing videos are all segments. Those segments drove the most views, subscribers, and the most traffic back to the full-length episodes. Because all of those segments are tied to the most successful episodes. And this is the playbook, again, that I used to help build that channel to over 380,000 subscribers. This is what actually works because we are doing this with other channels as well. So you publish segments on YouTube as standalone videos. That's your primary growth engine. You can share them on Facebook or LinkedIn if you want, but in my opinion, YouTube is where the real growth happens. I wouldn't muddy up your podcast feed, like the Spotify feed with segments, just because you don't want to honey dick people. Listeners there, they want like the full meal. They don't want just the really big sample. They want the whole thing. They want the case of those protein bars, right? They don't want just one bar. And also remember, the goal is YouTube growth, not social media vanity metrics. So, don't worry about the shorts. We just did a video on that part as well with the vanity metrics. But anyways, extra bonus points if you end each segment with an outro that simply says, watch the full episode here as the YouTube end plate pops up on screen. Something I need to do. I haven't been doing it for myself, but I tell everyone else to do it. So do as I say, not as I do. But yeah, as that end plate pops up it tells people like, hey, if you like this, go check out the full length episode here. Make it easy to click through, right? The segment proved you have value. Now they want that full serving, right? So why do people still chase shorts, right? So if segments are the answer, why are people still chasing shorts? This is the thing that I believe to be true, and please correct me if I'm wrong, but I think it really does come down to this. I talk about Gary Vee a lot, and I'm going to continue to. Like, the next thing I'm going to record is actually going to be really, really like aimed towards him. I still love the guy. I still follow him every day. But a lot of this stuff comes down to people like Gary Vee. He built his entire empire on high volume posting. Post consistently, be everywhere, create more content than anyone else. And it worked like 6 years ago. Again, I bet it can work right now, but we're talking about for a podcast. And 6 years ago, the internet was different. The algorithms were different. Audience behavior was different. The advice that helped grow people back then has not been updated today. So creators are still following this like that's the one and only playbook, like if it's gospel, even though the game has completely changed. Then, of course, we talked about this, the vanity metric trap. You look at your analytics and you see, wait a second here, I got a bunch of subscribers from this short, more than the long form. And that sounds good and it feels like progress, except those subscribers don't convert into podcast listeners. They're not going to buy your product. They're not going to join your school community. They're not going to book a call with you. They just want the dopamine hit. Subscribers from long form content, those are the ones that actually care about what you're building. They're the ones that become customers. And then there's also real burnout that does get talked about a little bit, but not as much. You're a business owner. You have limited time, maybe a small team, but you're juggling podcasts, vlogs, shorts, reels, clips, life. You're spreading yourself really thin across multiple platforms, trying to chase the algorithm and all its updates and changes. Something has to give. And I see this way too often, again, because people get stuck on, well, my reel got 1,000 views and my podcast got 100. So I don't want to let go of that. So then what happens? Well, usually the thing that gets dropped is the thing that matters. And that's the podcast itself. This is pretty cool here, but I'm going to give you permission to do something that no one else will. If shorts don't align with your business goals, stop doing them. If they drain your energy without converting to actual business results, it's okay to stop doing them. The relief I see on podcasters' faces when I tell them that it's okay and you have permission to not do this, it's kind of crazy. It's permission to stop the noise and focus on doing stuff that actually moves the needle. Building authority requires time with your audience. 60 seconds isn't going to build that trust. 15 to 20 minutes of genuine value, that does. That's where people actually get to know you. That's where the business happens. Long form content is where you prove yourself. Shorts, I've said this before in the past, is just noise. Here's a very obvious thing, and it's so obvious it sounds dumb. But if you want to grow your podcast, focus on growing your podcast, not chasing the algorithms or any other platforms, not on vanity metrics, on your actual podcast. If you want to test this, here's what you got to do. Pull 1 to 3 segments from your most successful full-length episode. Make those segments hyper-specific with better focused titles than the main episode. Because again, your main episode is going to be, the blah, blah, blah of the blah, blah, blah. Well, now this is the blah. Don't make it blah, though. That sounds bad. But everything's going to be way more focused. Again, better focused thumbnails, better focused descriptions. It's going to make everything easier because you're not trying to fit everything in just like you did on the episode with multiple topics. It's all on one topic, one segment. You're going to publish those segments on YouTube and let them drive traffic back to the full-length episode, and then track what happens. Watch your long-form views change. Watch your subscribers change. See the proof for yourself. Focus on what builds real authority and give yourself permission to stop chasing shorts. I wish I didn't mess up that last line, but I did, and now I got to live with that. Damn it. So with that said, again, if you want, go check out Mark Bell's Power Project, sort by most popular, and see what happens. Then implement this strategy for yourself. Just pursue it. Peace.